Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Me, still reeling from the announcement that there's a potential £650 billion worth of windfall barreling down the road towards the UK construction industry as the government's infrastructure pipeline is unveiled. We'll be looking at that in a bit more depth a bit later on. But first, our extended show today is ready for takeoff. So without further ado, let's taxi to the runway and prepare for takeoff. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It's Tuesday, the 14th of September, and as that ever-present guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Wrexham flats collapse during demolition. Doosan's transparent bucket is a clear winner. A new report reveals that construction is the UK's deadliest industry. Caterpillar unveils another new materials handler, and the shape of things to come as Hyundai's takeover of Doosan Infracore draws ever closer. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to go beyond the facts and look at the factors behind the £650 billion spend that has been earmarked for infrastructure construction in the coming decade. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless is celebrating their birthdays on this day of days. And it's many happy returns to Jurassic Park actor Sam Neill, to former Chelsea and England footballer Ray Butch Wilkins, and to the incomparable Amy Winehouse, who left us way too soon. Many happy returns to them, one and all. Investigations are underway after a section of flats in Wrexham collapsed while undergoing demolition. Work was taking place on the sheltered housing units with no residents or workers inside at the time. Wrexham.com reports that no one was injured during the incident. Local councillor Paul Pemberton says apparently all trades had left when the collapse happened, but a full investigation is underway. I spoke to local architects late last evening and he was busy arranging safety concerns. He was also on site when I visited first thing this morning. Building control, structural engineers and the HSE are expected shortly. I am assured that through thorough investigations will identify the cause and will be made public in due course. The leader of Wrexham Council, Mark Pritchard, has also visited the site. The most important thing is there has been no injuries and no one was hurt, he says. There is an ongoing investigation with our principal contractor, and I can't comment further until that investigation is complete. There is no word as yet on the cause or on the name of the demolition contractor involved, but we will bring you more details as we receive them.
The Miller GT series heralds a new era of unrivaled power and cutting-edge intelligent coupler technology, increasing job site safety, machine versatility, and productivity. It's the added versatility that you need at the value you can afford. To find out more, visit millergroundbreaking.com.
Although thankfully no one was hurt in the Wrexham incident, it does coincide with a new report that has found construction and by association demolition to be the most deadly industry sector in the UK. Construction takes first place above a whole host of other hazardous occupations such as mining, farming, fishing, forestry, security, and firefighting. The study by life insurance specialist I'm Insured analysed the latest HSE data to reveal the most dangerous occupations, common causes of death, and the age groups most at risk. I'm Insured broke down the data by industry, revealing that construction jobs are, in fact, the deadliest. Over 5 years, there were 133 deaths in the workplace. In the construction workplace, rather. While the report says there have been significant improvements over the past few years, construction still accounts for the highest percentage of fatal injuries. More than 1 in 6 of all work-related deaths were attributed to the construction sector. Over the past 143 episodes, can you believe it? 143. Over the past 143 episodes of this show, and during the 200 or more other shows that we've produced since the first lockdown began, we have seen, played with, and reported on a lot of impressive technology. And while the name is just a little misleading, one of the most impressive pieces of technology is surely the transparent bucket system from those clever people at Doosan. Let's just remind you of the system and what it can do. Well, it turns out that we're not the only fans of this impressive piece of high-tech safety, because the system won 2 of the major awards at the Mat Expo exhibition that took place in Belgium last week. The system won in both the innovation and safety categories, scooping 2 of the 3 awards organised by Mat Expo and decided by an independent jury. So massive congratulations to the boffins at Doosan and to those independent judges that quite clearly share our enormous good taste. Now, speaking of Doosan, you might recall that way back at the beginning of the year, it was announced that Hyundai Heavy Industries was to take over Doosan Infracore. Well, that deal has been percolating slowly in the background, but it now appears we're about to find out just what the new company might look like. Take a look at this. Apparently, we can expect more details on that later this month. Now, sticking with all things equipment related, you might recall that back in our 100th episode, way back in July, we brought you news of several new materials handlers from Caterpillar. Well, now comes news that there's yet another one. The new CAT MH3026 material handler is powered by a Stage 5 compliant CAT C7.1 engine that is capable of operating on biodiesel. A new front linkage offers up to 13 meters of reach. Sorry, my notes just went a bit squiffy. While a dedicated heavy lift mode boosts lifting capacities to more efficiently handle heavy loads. An e-fence system prevents the machine from moving outside operator-defined parameters, while cab avoidance helps the operator by preventing contact between the attachment and cab. By requiring a PIN code to start the engine, the new operator ID inhibits the machine from an unauthorized operation as well. Standard right side and rear view cameras, upgradable to 360-degree vision, display video feed to the large in-cab touchscreen monitor to further enhance work area visibility. The 10-inch high-resolution touchscreen monitor offers easy navigation of the intuitive operator controls. Operators can also store their specific joystick and preferred power mode settings, and the machine automatically recalls the settings based on the operator ID.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or, better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Now, if you were watching yesterday, you'll know that I mentioned the small matter of £650 billion that has been earmarked for improving the UK's infrastructure over the next decade. As that news broke while I was on air, I didn't really have an opportunity to process or digest it. But as soon as yesterday's show was over, I hooked up with Builders Conference CEO Neil Edwards to discuss this in greater depth. Now, our chat is about 15 minutes long, but there's some interesting points and important points here that need to be heard, heeded, and addressed as well. So all things being equal, I'm about to play that for you now. If you can't stick around, you can find this as a standalone video on demolitionnews.com right now. It's actually the lead story as I speak. Alternatively, if you prefer, we've also turned this into an audio podcast. Just go to your podcast provider of choice, search for Demolition News Radio, and you're good to go. It also works via smart speaker if you're that way inclined, but I dare not mention her name as she sat right here looking at me. I'm going off screen now, but I will be in the chat, so please feel free to post any comments, and I'll do my best to respond to them while this plays. So let's roll that film.
Will be leading towards an absolute bumper time in the construction industry.
It's been announced that an astonishing £650 billion has been earmarked to deliver the UK government's new infrastructure pipeline. As well as highlighting the spend and the split between public and private finance, the Infrastructure and Projects Authority has looked at the number of people required to deliver the countless projects that will take place under the umbrella of that pipeline, and it suggests the industry will need around 425,000 individuals per year. Here to discuss this is Builders Conference CEO Neil Edwards. Now, the Builders Conference BC Live League table is the most up-to-date and reliable source of construction contract award data, so it's likely that the news of any individual projects announced as part of this plan will be seen on the BC Live League table first. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mark.
Thanks for jumping on to this at such short notice. 650 billion set aside over the next decade. That's great news, isn't it?
Fantastic news. The headline side of things is absolutely fantastic. But as you've just, in your lead up to all of this, as you've already said, it's how we actually do the work and the number of personnel required to do that work. But it's not only that, it's also the supply chain of materials, plant and equipment as well that needs to deliver these projects.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second, but I think one of the things that struck me as interesting was the announcement specifically says that the planned £650 billion will be a mix of both public and private finance. That doesn't surprise me. Just to show people what that looks like, that's what it looks like. So there is a bit of a split there between the public and the private finance, and that's an area where we've seen a real shift in the balance over the past few years, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. What we've seen for the last 2 or 3 years is the private sector has taken over most of the construction projects throughout the UK. And in recent months, obviously with the likes of HS2 and other infrastructure projects, it is slowly increasing. But you've got to look at also how much the government and local authorities have spent regarding the pandemic. So if there are going to be major infrastructure projects, probably what will happen is they're going to be financed similar to the likes of the Dartford Bridge and elements like that there will be a toll of some sort to provide it. So that's where the private sector will come in to support the actual borrowing of the money by their sources.
But aside from the eye-catching headline of £650 billion, and I wouldn't mind a small fraction of that, the standout figure for me was, as you've already alluded to, the fact that we're going to need 425,000 people to bring all of this to fruition. We're already in the midst of a major skill shortage. We've lost a lot of migrant workers who have gone home after Brexit, and now we need just short of another 500,000 construction workers. Where are we going to get them from?
Yeah, we've got to start training now. But on the same breath as all those construction workers. If you then take into account the announcement last week of social care, we're improving social care, so we're going to be needing more nurses and people in that sector. Are we going to have to relax our rules regarding entry of people into the UK, or expand the list? Because we're asking to expand the list on HGV drivers, because we're struggling to actually get the materials delivered to site. So you've got that. You've got obviously the social care aspect and nursing aspect. That's going to be, and then on top of that, you're needing 425,000 construction individuals. Wow, and they don't, to train those people, it doesn't take 5 minutes. We've got to have started that. If we're looking at, I think they're saying 2024 is going to be at the peak of things. Well, that's only, what's that, 2.5, 3 years away? It's some apprenticeships are 4 or 5 years, aren't they? So we've really got to be thinking that we've got to start it today. I think a lot of the colleges, schools and colleges are going back today. Is there enough, or are there enough courses being put on to actually put that through? And I can't answer that because I haven't got those figures in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting point there, I've only reported today the fact that HS2 is a year in from the formal start of construction, and they've created 20,000 jobs. Now, HS2 is a mammoth project. They've created 20,000 jobs in a year. We've got to come up with 425,000 in 3 years. It just doesn't sound doable, does it?
No, we've got to look at how we can supplement our actual workforce, because in the short term we will not be able to get those people on site. That's not doom and gloom, but we won't. We're sitting here today, and where can we find those? And there is also the element. It's reported, that something like over the last 2 years, 600,000 European people have left, who worked in the construction industry, have left the industry, gone back home. So you put that all into the mix, and there's a concern going forward from now, and that's just the actual workers on site. You've still got people that have got to build the equipment, and you reported today in your breakfast show about JCB have already sold their production line in the way of products till the end of the year, and I know Peter's up there doing some work with Ritchie Brothers today regarding the auction. Well, we're being squeezed on all aspects, and with these squeezes, unfortunately, comes inflation, because the person that's got the biggest pound or the largest number of pounds in their pockets can pay those few extra pounds for a product to have it there and then.
And another area of concern, I guess, is materials. We're already in the midst of a shortage, and we've also seen how mammoth projects like HS2 can exacerbate that shortage. That could be, and is highly likely to be, an issue with this infrastructure pipeline as well, couldn't it?
Absolutely. We are already in significant issues regarding supply of materials, and it even goes down to the basics of copper, because we import a great deal of copper, and getting those through the docks and getting them on boats, etc., but then also distributed throughout the UK is also causing us a problem. It could be timber, it could be anything at the present time. It's great to have, and it's really pleasing that we can see what we have got is from here on now, we have got a plan in place to provide all this extra work, but now we've got to have the detail of how we're going to do it, and we've got to be getting out there to speak to a lot more people in schools and colleges to say construction is a fantastic industry to work in. How about becoming an apprentice, or how about actually going on the management side of things and doing that from today, not tomorrow, but today. It really has to be today.
Now, you've mentioned schools, and I do realise that I am a professional cynic, but we've had promises of major investment in both schools and perhaps more urgently in hospitals and healthcare. Neither of those appear to have been delivered as yet. I know we've had dribs and drabs in both education and in healthcare, but not the planned spend that we were expecting from the UK government. Are we going to see the same thing again with infrastructure, do you think?
Well, there will be some opposition to infrastructure, there is no doubt. And I think you've reported previously about the moratorium in Wales regarding new road networks and road infrastructure there. So at one minute they're saying we need connectivity throughout the UK, but in the next breath you're saying, well, we're going to stop this, we're going to stop this. So there will be some opposition, and I know that through the courts at the moment, the A303 underneath Stonehenge, that's had an appeal process going on there. So is it just chest bashing government policy? Some of it obviously will be, because last week we had the issue, well, not the issue, but the announcement that our all national insurances are going to go up. So are we having the good news to cover the bad news last week? There probably will be. If you ask me, that's only my opinion, because we've been here, as we say, we're cynics, and we've been here so many times before. Yeah, we still haven't seen the 40-odd hospitals come through yet, the ones that the government announced in their manifesto when they got in. So if you put those on top of all of this, we're not talking small amounts of money for a new hospital. Yeah, we want to see some delivery of the actual facts of what they're saying. But I hope not, because it means that our industry can survive and has a plan for, because we're always talking, we're short-termism, in our industry. We are, if we can have a real route plan for the next 50 years, and it's out there and it's laid out to everybody, then that gives stability for people to invest, businesses to invest in their personnel, not only in that side of things, but also the infrastructure in their own businesses, whether it be IT or actual machinery and things like that. If you can see this real plan, you can do it. But if you're just in the short-termism, just thinking about what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months, then that's why people don't invest in our industry as much as they should do.
I guess that there is another point here. I mean, you and I have been reporting for the past, I would guess, 3+ years on the fact that the house building sector is basically holding up the industry. It's propping up the entire industry. To my mind, there will be an awful lot of people that are currently working in house building that will not automatically hop over into road building and rail building and that kind of thing. So we are talking about completely fresh new people and fresh new jobs here in a lot of ways, aren't we?
Many of them will be, and because why we need all this infrastructure is because we've got all these houses to build. So we still have to do 250,000 houses per year to maintain a level where the population can actually live in good accommodation. So we need these roads, rail networks, infrastructure projects, and some of these infrastructure projects, no doubt, will be new reservoirs to supply some of this housing, etc., throughout the UK. It's going to be an absolute mix. And then I look down here. One of them is flood and coastal erosion, and we've still got that side of things, which is obviously climate change, to deal with as well, to protect us. So a lot of those skills are quite individual and quite unique to the infrastructure world. So yeah, changing from one to the other is quite difficult. So maybe there's got to be a lot of retraining that's going on, because of we've obviously seen the demise in the retail sector through the high street, etc. So a lot of retraining of those people will need to happen to get them into the construction world.
I guess all of this hinges upon the conservative government remaining in power as well for the duration, because I know Boris Johnson has stated directly or otherwise this weekend that he's eyeing another decade in power, but there's no guarantees. A week is a long time in politics, and an alternative government could quite easily pull the rug out from some or even all of this, couldn't they?
Yeah, it's exactly right. It happened when there was a huge program for schools, when it was Gordon Brown and Tony Blair stood up on their platform. I remember it well, saying education, 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 and they put a number of things in place. And then when the Conservative Party got in with, it was obviously a coalition government, one of the first things they did was scrap that programme. So that could quite easily happen again on infrastructure. It would be sad to see, because obviously it will provide, that sector will provide, well, construction will provide us with a number of jobs, and nobody wants to get rid of a number of jobs. So it could be a political tennis ball, this one, going backwards and forwards. But yeah, we do need stability in government as well to make sure that those policies are maintained over the next 10, 12 years as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let you get back to the day job now, Neil, but I'm just to sign off. I mean, obviously, we have picked some of the potential pinch points and the problem areas, but the fact is, you know, if we can actually deliver £650 billion worth of new work and new infrastructure, great for the country, but absolutely fantastic news for the industry.
Oh yeah, we could be leading towards an absolute bumper time in the construction industry, and it's down to the likes of myself who go out to educational establishments to say it is maybe the time now to think about construction as your career path. We really need to focus on that and say to people, yes, it can be tough, it can be sometimes cold and damp and everything else. But as a career path, it is a fantastic way forward.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks for jumping on the call as quickly as you have, and fingers crossed that all this comes to fruition.
I hope so too, very much so.
And there you are. I mentioned in the roundup there that I am a professional cynic, and it is terrible to look £650 billion, a £650 billion gift horse in the mouth. But I've been around for quite a while, and I know how these things tend to play out. It would be fantastic to think that all of that 650 billion would be going straight into the industry's coffers, and that 425,000 additional jobs would be achievable. Fingers crossed. That pretty much wraps up this morning's show. I'll roll the outro in just a second, and then I'll jump over into the chat very quickly to see what's on the menu today. I'll also be back here on the morrow, same time, same place, for more of this old stuff and nonsense. And tomorrow being a Wednesday, I will also be on Instagram for our weekly No Agenda show. But until then, have a great day, stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, and thanks for watching.